This is the FarmHopLife podcast, a traveling homestead family. I'm Matt DeRozier. Tonight, my guest is Brian Harrington. He is a Bitcoin activist who lives in the desert of Southern California with his wife, Sherin, and his son, Riot. It's so
Yep.
badass.
Yep.
Brian and Sherin have been longtime Bitcoiners, and they are doing what they can to build a self-sustainable home on a regular suburban-sized lot, as well as talk to people about the crossover between Bitcoin and homesteading.
Yeah.
That's pretty sweet. That's why we're
Yeah.
here, right?
Yes. Yes.
Before we jump into it, how'd you settle on the name Riot?
Yeah. Well, we wanted to be different, like wanted to be original.
Check.
Didn't yeah, check. I didn't want to be like so like over the top of just like picking a random word, but we could have been that might be what we did. And dude, like the times call for it. Like he's growing
Sure.
up in a world that is different, like straight up. Like, and that's a lot of all my thoughts about Bitcoin and homesteading and marriage and just politics and just what we're doing here. Like the world is not the same, period. And so he deserved a name that is not the same.
There you go. There you go. Maybe it's like I didn't know if it was something like it was the first word of like one of your like seed phrases or something like that.
No, nothing like that. No, it just really was like I wanted something that like was powerful because we need it.
Gotcha. No, that
Yeah.
makes sense. That's so awesome. I'm not bold enough to name my kid something outrageous like that.
And and I like short. I just like the short too, like short and punchy.
There you go.
So,
Both my
yep.
kids have 4-letter names, so
Yep.
I get it.
Perfect. Because I have a long last name. Harrington has 10 letters, so I mean it's gotta pair with something short.
There you go. Balance it out.
Yep.
That's true. That's true. So, what came first, homesteading or Bitcoin for you?
Yeah, dude, Bitcoin. Like Bitcoin for sure came first. So yeah, my wife and I have been doing Bitcoin together since 2015. And then the homesteading stuff came later. Like this home that I'm sitting in right now, we've only been here for 9 months, and it was the first time we'd ever had a backyard. So like we did the renting thing, like in just regular sized apartments for a long time. We had a townhome, and then yeah, a bunch of pieces just fell into place for us to get a home with a backyard for the first time. And that's when I started just being like, kind of the same thing about his name. Like, what can we do that's different? It was like, how can I have a backyard that's not just, grass that isn't like giving our family like an ROI? How do I use we're paying for that dirt. What is something else I
Right.
can do with it? And I just watch YouTube all the time. Like truly the reason why I like participating on this side of the camera on YouTube, but every single day I'm on the other side of the camera on YouTube as well. Like it truly is where I watch news, like where I watch entertainment. Like I appreciate learning from people. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm taking people that are doing stuff smarter than me and figuring out like which ones can I do right here.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And I don't think a lot of people think about the ROI on like their home, like every
Mm-hmm.
square foot that you
Right.
have to pay taxes on, like it or
Mm-hmm.
not.
Mm-hmm.
Like it might as well do something for you, but no, let's just dump a bunch of inputs in it and never get anything out of it. Instead of, yeah, that's a nice
Yep.
lawn. Like,
Yep.
okay.
Yep. Yep.
No,
No,
dude, that makes total sense.
yeah, and one way where that's immediately like recognizable or where you just immediately have a calculation in California, they require new builds to have solar. So for me, and we bought a new build house. Like so for me, that decision was just already made. The solar panels were already wrapped into our mortgage, and so it was what it was. But
Sure.
then when you go down the thing of like learning about solar and you realize that like if you create more surplus than you use, the utility company does not give you the full amount that you would pay for
Right.
that hour. They give you way less. Like it's not a free market. And
Yeah,
so
it's a fraction.
then
Yeah, yeah.
that's where I layer on like Shrin and I have been mining Bitcoin in our like 1 bedroom apartment for like years, just off and on. Like we would just plug it in our living room. And so now is the first time that I've been an energy producer too. So like on top of having a backyard, I'm now an energy producer. And so yeah, I go into just a bunch of stuff. That's one tangible place where I see the crossover is home people with homesteads and people that understand that they need to be energy producers that Bitcoin mining can monetize their energy in a way that the regular grid can't.
Yes, dude, that makes a lot of sense. You know, if like what's your what kind of mining rig do you have? And like,
Yeah.
you know,
And,
I barely understand hash power and all that
yep.
stuff. But let's pretend I know what you're
Yeah.
talking
Yeah.
about.
And look, I have the best one for people like me and you, an Antminer S9, because it's
Okay.
the one that you can get on Craigslist, the one that you can get on eBay. It's not thousands of dollars, it's a few hundred. Like, and
Oh,
every
seriously?
time, yes, and every time I've bought one, it's been for a few hundred off Craigslist, like buying anything else. So it doesn't. You're right. It doesn't have to be complicated. You don't have to understand the whole thing. Like, we can talk about why, like, if from a financial standpoint, like that led me to homesteading, but just straight up the technology, it's you buy the box and you plug it into your router and you plug it into the wall. And then the one tricky part is you have to find the like IP address of the machine, and that's how you get logged in. That's the only part
Sure.
that's a little bit tricky, because you just got to download another plugin and figure out how to do that. But no, like anybody can do it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Um, Jumping back to homesteading, I
Yep.
was trying to figure out what you're sitting in front of. Is that
Yeah.
a water tank?
Yeah. Yeah. So there's a 2,500 gallon water tank.
Oh, dude,
And
nice.
this is we got this in the backyard, or sorry, in the back corner, and it was the first project we did, was in the back corner. So
Yeah, that makes sense because it'd be a
yeah,
pain in the butt to have to move it like after you had
ex-
plants established.
exactly. And like we have what's called a wet system, and I'm sure, so like there's where it comes down into the ground, and then it runs underground and up into the tank.
Okay.
And
So
so
you got
that, yeah,
rain catchment.
yeah, rain catchment. But then I
Okay.
also can fill it up with just the hose too. Like, I have my own inlet too. So it's for both rainwater capture, but then also just having gallons on hand.
Dude, that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I have a like a tweet like drafted right now of about like commenting about California's like water usage. So I was
Mm-hmm.
just there last weekend. We
Mm-hmm.
went up to visit Sequoia National Park.
Okay.
Awesome. Super
Yep.
awesome. But man, driving on highway, I think it's highway 65 to get there.
Mm-hmm.
Like the water is either in a big ditch, like just like a concrete ditch, or it just gets dumped down the drain. And
Mm-hmm.
even like all the orchards to get there, like you can see like just straight up bare dirt. There ain't
Yep.
nothing but the trees. Like, and so you can see like the little drip line hoses and the water coming off of those trees like on a slope, and it just goes right along like the road into a ditch. And it's like, you guys are creating your own water problem. Like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you get
For sure.
everything you deserve. You get
Mm-hmm.
absolutely everything. Don't throw it on wood chips. Don't do nothing. Just leave it. Bare dirt. Run into the. Wow. That
100.
blew me away.
Dude, so two things on that. One, my backyard right here, I like to say I'm like blurring styles. Like, I want to blur the kind of just like traditional California backyard with like the outdoor barbecue, and just like the very like, we're gonna put a pool in that corner and like stuff like that. But then I also want to
Nice.
do with the like with permaculture, and understanding that, like, no, like mulching matters. Like, how do you actually keep the water that doesn't hit the cistern like in the ground, that kind of. And it was interesting watching the guys install this concrete, because dude, over like literally over a quarter of the cost and over half the work was digging ditches that put in drains that took water to the front of the house. And I was like, guys, that's just wild. Like, that's wild that every single house for all these
Yeah.
things, like, there, it's like, oh, the water is a nuisance. Like, for the 9 inches it rains a year, we have like, the water is a nuisance that we have to be draining
Right.
every single 5 feet and getting it out of here. And
Like it's
that's
a
just such a
waste
funny.
product.
Right, right.
Dude,
Like,
yeah,
oh,
that
get it
blew
away from
my
the house.
mind. Oh
Yeah,
man,
yeah.
what a waste.
The, and then the second thing about California that I like to tell people is, I'm this is this is where the like Bitcoiner comes into, but also the just like optimistic like prepping. I'm like, and libertarianism or whatever. Like, dude, I want to be on the forefront of, if we're gonna see like cities have bond issues and cities have water issues and infrastructure like really be tested, like I'm okay being on like the frontier because that means like we're gonna bottom first and I'm gonna buy the dip on California. I want to be the
I
part
like it.
of I want to be part of the solution that has the resources to be the infrastructure like if and when it just like stops working. And so that's just what keeps me like optimistic about just California and just about like I know homestead they like to joke about like, oh, like HOAs are a nuisance or like whatever. I have flipped that completely on its head. Like let's normalize homesteaders being on the HOA and like let's normalize rewriting the like all because they're just rules. They're just rules. Like we can go door to door and be like, no, chickens make sense. Like ducks make sense, literally, for the time period that we're in and just change the rules. Like there's how many homes are there? And if you knock on all of them and talk logically, like people will agree with you. And so, yeah, I just think we have an opportunity to do that.
Dude, I like your energy, not gonna lie. I just don't for me personally. I'm glad someone's fighting a good fight. I'm not gonna take that away
Yeah.
from you whatsoever.
Yeah.
Not for me.
Right.
I got enough to try to figure out on my own before I start knocking on doors just to get chickens, you know?
Yep.
But
Yep.
dude, I'm not gonna lie, like California's pretty beautiful. And if it wasn't California, I'd live there
Hmm.
probably.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's a pretty sweet place. But
Yeah. I agree.
uh yeah. Well, you must just have like the like a like bleed for California. Otherwise you wouldn't stay, you know?
It's just this mix of like it's just good. Like I like being here. And so and my wife and I like we both work from home, like we both work in tech. And so it's from a networking perspective, just like being here and her family's here. I just like it. Like my family is from the Midwest and my family still lives in South Dakota. And so I've done that thing too. And I actually grew up like oh the majority of my childhood was like in towns less than 10,000 people. And so like moving to California is definitely still like new for me. Like I wake up in Southern California and I'm just like surprised that I'm here.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, I mean, it's a little. It was. I was distracted because like it's getting darker where you
Yeah.
are,
Yeah.
and so like all I can basically see is like the top of your head. Oh, that's better. There you go.
Yeah.
That's funny. Because it was the sun was just coming like down behind the mountains an hour ago for me, and obviously
Yep.
you're an hour behind me, so that it's just doing that now for you. Like
Yep.
it's weird to see like that all happen.
I couldn't do the interview from my desk because like this is what we were talking about was all of this like right here. So had to
Sure.
just had to sit out in it.
Perfect. So so you wanted to produce more like make like have a return of surplus or like
Yeah.
return on
Yep.
investment for your property. That's how you got into homesteading. Like you just saw it as like, well, I'm paying for this dirt. I might as well use it to
Yeah.
get something back out of it.
Yeah, it was definitely that. It was like I want to figure out some sort of ROI on it. And so and I wanted to be like it definitely is a hobby. Like it's a hobby that's tangential to Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is about separating money and state. Bitcoin's about separating money and state. It's about taking our savings in a way that isn't like the government is not able to debase it anymore. And it's just very like peer to peer. And so I say this thing where it's like farmers markets have like half the battle right, but if we're still handing over like paper money that the government is like still debasing, we've only won half the equation. So like what I want to do is I just want to participate in the whole conversation and be a part of helping both sides of the equation. And there's people that are
Sure.
farther along on the food production side than I am, and then I can help like explain what Bitcoin is doing and how to combine that tech with what that's doing. And so yeah, it's like a hobby that's tangential. It's wanting to do a return on like the land I already have. My mother-in-law lives with us, and so she is also a great gardener, and so it's a way that I can connect with her, and it's a way that I can begin
Nice.
to like learn from her. And yeah, that's definitely where it started. And then I also like gardening for me flipped from like just I didn't want to think of it anymore of just growing lettuce. Like I don't like eating lettuce. Like I don't want to eat lettuce. Like how can
Sure.
the first thing I grew was like potatoes in like a container because I'm like I like mashed potatoes. Like this is like let's like make something, you know? And so now and then like reading more and more about like building soil and like permaculture and like composting. Like honestly, composting and like doing the solar stuff and doing the water capture stuff, that's all more interesting to me than like actual straight up gardening. But I
Agreed.
like,
The infrastructure. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
so I like doing infrastructure. That's the very like type A, like I need a relaxation thing from my like actual job stuff. And so doing that infrastructure stuff, but in a way that like sets her up to like do the growing stuff that she really enjoys. And then I've been finding other things like where like right now I've gone pretty hard on like fava beans, but so rather than buying like one little packet of seeds and just kind of like feeling real dinky about it, like I just went and bought like a pound of seeds so that I could just like really go for it. Like if this
Sure.
works, I want to see patches of this stuff. Like I don't just want to see four things or whatever. And so then through that it's tackling the first initial things, right? Like where I actually had some like late summer pumpkins that were taking off super, super well, but then they just got hammered by aphids. And so, but that happens. Like that happens. And I wasn't on top of it. And so I chopped it all out. But then I was like, all right, this is a bunch of sick stuff from my compost bin. So like now we're like off to the races with more stuff on that, you know? And so it's just that type of problem solving is really interesting. And that's literally what I'm in the thick of. Is just like this was the first summer slash early fall that I had planted things with any semblance of being in the right season at all. And so that feels good to be like semi organized.
No, that is something like, hey, I planted something in the right season.
Mm-hmm.
My potatoes are doing well too. But
Right.
yeah, that's so when people are like kind of saying like, hey, my whatever isn't doing too well, like mine sucks too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Instead of being like a whole season behind or
Right.
not at all.
Right.
So I saw, are you like cover cropping with straw or like what kind of other like methods or techniques you got going on over there?
Yeah. So the whole backyard's mulched with just like it was choppings from these trees back here that I just like we dumped over here, but then also just like bag mulch from the store. But then yeah, our like my mulch in the actual beds was just a hay bale that I went and bought. So that way the beds are mulched with actual hay. And yeah, there's two beds of cover crops of just mixed stuff that we don't plan on eating, just like seeing how it goes. And then
Sure.
fava beans everywhere else.
Nice. I thought about, man, I can't remember what it was specifically, but just like planting stuff and then just letting it like cutting the tops off and just like
Yeah.
letting the roots rot in the ground.
Yep.
Just
Yep.
maybe for like erosion control or something like that, but I don't remember what I was gonna do with it. It was like one of those like wake up at 2 a.m. and have a thought, and then like you don't write it down, and then you go back to bed, and then I honestly forgot about it until just now.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think letting it rot, that's the same thing. That's the same thing I've learned too.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so let's talk about some stuff that worked well. What was like your great crop that you had this year? What'd you take away
Melons.
the best? Melons? What
Yeah,
kind of melons?
melons for sure. Like muskmelon. So we had muskmelon and watermelon. The watermelon never sprouted. The vines looked really good, but never sprouted. Muskmelon gave us like 7 to 8 solid melons. And the takeaway from that is like I'm have been trying again, like I just brought up all that infrastructure stuff. Like I've been trying to be like the infrastructure, very like organized guy, very like da 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 whatever. She literally just threw them in the ground like without even telling me, and then it was our best thing ever that like took over the whole yard and looked really awesome. And so
That's annoying.
that's an example of just like it's good that she just like went for it, and it's like pushing me to like just go with it. Which
Yeah, just
right.
go and probably fail, but
Mhm.
that's part of it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
cool. I'll probably do more melons next year because
Right.
that
Right.
works. Yeah,
Right. Exactly.
right. What failed the hardest?
Our other duck. We had two. We had two in the mail, but now we only have one because a raccoon got it.
Oh man.
So yeah, and that's just an example of something I've realized when you're. I'm sure this happens anywhere, but specifically at a home, what's interesting is there's a new build lot, new build homes all the way around us. There's like a service road to our back, and it was just blank dirt. And so as soon as we started pouring energy into the yard, energy started coming towards us. Birds, bugs, like weeds, it didn't matter. Like it was just like as soon as you start giving energy to it and like putting out buckets of water or whatever, like energy starts coming towards you. And so obviously the biggest thing was like watching like raccoons come into our yard. And I didn't see it actually take the duck, but we did wake up the following night and saw like 4 in our backyard. And that was the first time we'd ever experienced that. And so yeah, that's the thing that
it was
failed
actually like
hard.
like you went out and bought like a pair of ducks or the ducks showed up.
Yeah, we bought we bought the ducks. Yeah, we bought
Okay.
the ducks online from a
Gotcha.
farm,
Okay.
Metzger Farms.
Yeah, they're in California. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Man, their operation must be huge. Like, have you seen their catalog? Like, it's insane. Like, what you can order from them.
They also ship their ducks year round. Whereas, like the problem with Tractor Supply is that they only do their birds like during certain months.
Right. Yep.
And so that's what was cool about them.
And they're probably not very good at Tractor Supply. I don't know where they get their stuff from, but it's probably not very good.
And you can't sex the ducks. They let you sex the chickens, but they won't let you on the ducks.
Okay, gotcha. I get what you're saying about the, you put energy in and you're getting energy out. And it's like, it's such a dumb little thing. But so this year I got 100 yards of wood chips dumped on my property. And I spread out 75 of them in a spit. And the other 5 is still sitting in a giant pile for later use. And this is like our 3rd year here, I think. 3rd year. We barely have any trees. It's just like a lot of sage and stuff. There is like one small patch of trees, like kind of, let's say 50 yards away from the house.
Yeah.
We've never seen a chipmunk here until this year. Like, I know it's like a dumb, like, right, chipmunks. I always see them running across the wood chips that we spread out for like a future garden area. And then I think, was it this year? I think it was this year. We also saw a fox for the first time. So yeah, stuff's happening here. Bad side though is that last year a mountain lion showed up on our front door, so that was cool. I guess. Took my shoe.
Yes.
But yeah. But that comes with anything. So
exactly, and it's one thing to like watch videos about like predator proofing your like cage or whatever, but it's a whole another thing to like watch hawks like actually sit up on your like poles, like looking at your house. Like that's completely different. Like you can watch the videos, but until that's actually so to the watching videos point, like I would say this especially for people in the Southwest, especially for people in Southern California, but I'm sure it's relevant anywhere. YouTube channel called Epic Homesteading. Like it's the same guy who runs Epic Gardening. Dude, he crushes it. Like, and I wrote him and told him that. I'm like, if you just scroll all the way back to the beginning of the channel and watch it like you're watching like a better version of Home and Garden TV, it's just like item by item, like infrastructure stuff, but then also just like gardening stuff, just mulching and like composting stuff. Because there's it's cheap. Like everyone says this, like you can start anywhere with whatever you have. That's literally true. Like that's literally true because it's just about life is just about collecting skills. It's just about collecting skills. And so watch a video and then go do something about the video. Watch a video, then go do something about the video is like what I've been really just trying to do.
No, that's perfect. He's in California also. And he like turned his, I don't really keep up to date on like the latest of whatever a lot of people are doing. But from what I saw, like he basically filled his entire, I'm assuming, front yard of like raised beds, like
Yep.
the corrugated metal type.
Yep.
I mean, it looks nice, and that each one has like a thing. And he like it always talks about like, we got the sun over here, and so you want the smallest plants on this side
Yep.
of the bed because you don't want the taller plants shading them out. And like, oh, okay,
Yep.
like, obviously that. Well, when you say it like that, like, yeah, that makes sense. But some people might not know that, or
Right.
don't think about
Right.
it, or they
Right.
planted it
And
just off
and it would
90
just be
degrees.
and it would just be such a bummer for that like one variable to then like mess up your momentum, and then you're like, oh, I suck at this or whatever. But like
Yeah.
it's not like that. Like it's not like that. You have to just be ready for random variables to not work out, but then always have something else to be able to do, like with whatever progress you did make. Which is
The
why
other,
like composting and like mulching is so powerful, because like you can't mess it up. Like the more dirty and random it is, like the better. Like just roll with it.
right? Yeah, it's a mix. It's not just
Right.
straight one thing, like a monocrop. One thing I will to keep going on the epic gardening guy.
Yeah.
His stuff is like straight knowledge. There is no like it's not like super entertaining. Like there's but it's just straight, it's just solid.
Yeah.
Like it's just
Yeah.
good. Like
Yeah.
this is what you need to do. Follow these steps.
Yeah.
Go do it.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Um yeah, I like that. I like
And
that a lot.
because it helps it become intuitive for you. Like it has to become intuitive. People that are really good at just animals and gardening and just understanding nature and just like being self-sufficient, it it comes with you when the information is in your head and you've applied it.
Yes. Um Completely off topic. I'm trying to remember what you posted on Twitter recently. It was like, thanks, Jack Spearco and somebody
Yeah,
for what was that again?
that was for the cover cropping that we just talked about.
That was
And so
for the
and yeah,
crop.
and
Okay.
true yeah, and like yeah, True Leaf Market, like you can buy cover crop seeds by the pound. Like rather than just buy the one-off packet.
Nice.
And yeah, dude. And Jack's why I got ducks too, other over chickens. Because yeah, I don't know, just saw him on his channel, saw the duck eggs are worth more, and so capitalist and wanted to
Capitalist.
do it.
Yes. Uh I assumed that you lived in an HOA so you couldn't have chickens and that but they didn't say anything about ducks.
Yeah, so it's the kind of thing where this is why I brought up the like door knocking thing. Like the city says you can't have them. The
Okay.
HOA is a this the HOA is a copy paste like manual from another community. And so
Sure.
that sentence is in there, but that sentence has nothing to do with where we live. Like I live in a rural area. Like I live in a rural like agriculture area. Like
Hmm.
which is why the town has it already written inside the town codes. So I just like I'm just comfortable enough participating in like the messy governance of like humans being neighbors with each other that like it's guys, like we can do this. Like we can do this. It's okay. And the times that we're in call for it. So we don't need these copy paste things that aren't relevant to um this neighborhood that I'm in.
Let's I know it's not in the notes whatsoever, but
Yeah.
let's talk about the times that we're in.
Yeah.
It's getting weird. And what I mean, I know we probably listen to at least some of the same podcasts, but what is it that you're hearing and what is it that you're seeing? Like, uh, what are we looking at?
Yeah. I so I don't have any like bold predictions about that or any like specific things I think about. I guess it's just that clown world. Like clown
Clown
world
World.
is the thing that I just keep tweeting and reading like in I
Absolutely. It's great.
it's just like the way that like leaders in charge of making decisions at multiple levels of government are making decisions don't make any sense. Like, and we've said that for a long time. We've said that and felt that for a long time. But I think just being like, no, for real, like that literally doesn't make sense. And we know better. And but doing that in a way that's like not they're doing something about it. Like, man, that's why I like Bitcoin so much, and that's why I like homesteading, like even just at a hobby level, like so much, is because it's, how people are like, oh, if you work out, you'll feel better. If you work out, you'll feel better. But you can't really know what they mean until you like actually start doing it. To me, that's what both
Right.
those things feel like. Like, dude,
Sure.
I'm not, the way that the government handles its money has nothing to do with me anymore. Like, literally nothing to do with me anymore. Like, the way that they choose to like jack with the electricity rates and jack with the water rates or whatever, like, I'm hedging against that. The way that they keep messing with the school system, like, dude, like our mother-in-law like lives with us, and like we both work from home, and we're both like trying to set ourselves up so that like our like kids don't have to go to government schools. Like, all the way from like item by item by item, it's like, how can we be in control of what we're doing so that I don't have to watch the news 24/7? So like that's what I mean by that. And like, it's kind of water under the bridge now, but the biggest thing that really changed my mind a lot, man, was when the churches shut down, like in 2020. When the churches chose to, because I grew up in the church, man, like, and I've been a Christian my whole life. And when the pastors of these churches, and not every church, but for a lot of them, when they chose to put government talking points inside their church email blasts and send that stuff out verbatim, that like
Sure.
did not make me feel good. That didn't make me feel good at all. And that really changed the, like, it accelerated it, it accelerated a lot of things I already like thought and felt. But again, I don't just want to be, I don't just want to be another like random armchair libertarian like quarterback just like talking about ideas. I'm not talking about ideas. I'm literally being like, this is what my family's doing with what we have available.
Yeah, you're taking action for
Yeah.
your own life instead of letting it happen to you or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah. No, dude, that's brilliant. What if a lot more people did that?
Yeah. I think,
Now what it would look like, you know?
yeah, I
Even like
think,
1%.
mhm, mhm. I think definitely, dude. And that's why I think it's important. My like one just wish or hope or whatever is to blur a lot of movements together. It has to be this like giant, big thing. Like, it has to be like that's why I like Bitcoin. Like, Bitcoin has to affect the financial side. Like, homesteading has to affect the like individual resources side. Like, permaculture and like healing the soil like has to affect it. Everyone who owns a small business, like everyone who owns a business in any capacity, like is doing something. Everyone who just is this is like we I don't want to fight big tech and big government at the same time. I don't want to fight both of them at the same time.
They're almost the
Ideally, we
same at
don't.
this point.
Yeah, and ideally, we don't want to fight anybody. But it's just like,
Right.
I don't want to. We have to take what's available and create the networks that are available and use tech to like meet people in person and connect with like-minded people. But don't lump all tech into one basket, because I think like the silver lining of what has happened is like the work from home stuff, like the work from home stuff that allowed people to like leave the city but keep their tech jobs and like be able to kind of pour economic life like into restaurants and things like in farmers markets in other places. I think that's positive. So I want to see kind of like the remote like laptop class with like everyone who's been like hammering homesteading and hammering livestock and hammering all this stuff for a lot of years, like really get on the same page together. That would be cool.
No, I think that makes sense because it wouldn't be that smart to just put all your eggs in one basket. Like, I I homestead, so I'm okay. Like, okay, but what
Mm-hmm.
about like these 12 other things that
Mm-hmm.
they got their hooks in you? Like,
Yeah.
well, I homestead, so it's okay. Like, no, like,
Yeah.
do you know how to do like hard skills? Like, do you know how to plumb or
Mm-hmm.
frame a house
Mm-hmm.
or change your oil or
Yeah.
anything?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
there's I mean, there's a lot of areas that I'm weak in, but I hope to change that in
Yeah.
next year or two.
Yeah.
let me put it this way. I'm going to change that in the next year or
Mm-hmm.
two.
Mm-hmm. Dude, off of that, when I was growing up, my dad is pretty handy, and he redid our whole basement in one of our houses. He like built this like big retaining wall and redid our backyard in one of our houses. And I like had such a bad attitude like as a kid, like going to Home Depot and just like doing stuff. Like I wasn't able to pair like being a homeowner changed that for me. Like
Yeah.
even not even being a homesteader, like our first townhome changed that for me, because like taking out the old fan that had like the broken like pull cord and putting in a cool remote one, like that felt good, dude. Like that feels good. And so learning how to do that and feeling that happen to like a real estate that you own feels good. And that is what changed it for me. So I don't know how so I'm thinking about that a lot with my kids now, of like wanting to, it's easy to say this, but just like wanting to attach the reason for things like for them and be like, this, like skills matter, and it's not just chores and work are not just chores and work. Like this is knowing how to do this is good.
Yes. 100%. Like your kids emulate you. I mean, it's just like monkey see, monkey do. And
Yeah.
so if they see you out working, like
Yeah.
that's what they want to do. We were putting up a fence 2 weekends ago. I got to get back to it like this weekend. But I'm pre-drilling the stuff so it doesn't split, right? And
Yep.
so my kid, he doesn't like the impact gun because it makes a lot of noise. He has to cover his ears and stuff. But he picks up the drill and like he'll just like put the tip in the dirt and like
Yep.
pull the trigger, and he's like drilling dirt, and he's like
Yep.
like almost drilling like just the fence rails and everything. And I get the drill back, and like the drill bit is like this in the chuck. Like, damn it. Well, I'm not gonna like get mad at him. He's like out there
Right.
like playing with like
Right.
power tools and stuff. Like I'm not
Right.
gonna give him like a circular saw, obviously. And he almost put the drill bit like through his shoe while wearing it. So like you do need to keep an eye on it.
Yeah.
Obviously, but just like those, hopefully that interest in like skills, like, so man, I am like really
Sure.
like falling apart over here with my internet. That sucks. So let let's try to, I'm going to come back to the questions. That was a good tangent on man, I don't even,
Yeah.
it's hard to come back into it. What's been the biggest challenge in homesteading so far?
Yeah. Probably time. Like I'm very like I want to watch it happen fast. But and what's wild is like watching plants grow, like they actually do move pretty fast. Like once you're kind of in it, like once you're in the routine, it does move fast. Um, but for a long time, like this was just blank with like the wood chips on the ground and just the pile, like it just looked messy. This is honestly the first week I've felt it very just like dialed in and looking nice. And so, yeah, I think the time and like managing different priorities at the same time, probably the hardest part.
No, that I feel that too, because you'll go out, like you get all your stuff planted or whatnot, and then you monitor it for like a week. You're like, well,
Hmm.
nothing's. I see
Right.
little sprouts and stuff, but that's about it. And then you get busy with something else, and you totally neglect it, and you come back,
Yep.
and you either have like a whole bunch of dead plants, or they're completely wild, and you're
Yep.
like, well, damn it, I now I need to work a little bit harder to make this usable, or they're all alive, but they're yellow, and like that
Right.
doesn't look very good.
Right. And
No,
because
I'm
it's
totally with you.
and because it's 90, like we have really hot summers. Like it was over 100 degrees for like 10 days in a row. It'll be like routinely over 90. And so learning my area and like learning, like I just want stuff that I don't want to like fight with it. And so I'm in the stage of just like cycling through trying a bunch of things, but having to keep up energy to like try different things.
Sure. What's the best part about homesteading?
The best part is when I finally like listed off like all of the item by item, like water capture is like up and working, solar is up and working, the Bitcoin mining is up and working, like the duck is like 2 months old, that's up and working. Like we had just harvested 7 melons, and now the like moving into fall cover crop is like working. 2.5 garden beds are like full, and I have a full thing of like aging compost. And the grapevine like just hit the fence post like after it's been in the ground for like 4 months. So that feels good. Like watching multiple plates like spinning at one time feels good.
That's a funny way to put it.
Mhm.
But that makes sense. That makes sense to me because you got to keep them spinning.
Mhm.
I mean, get the right momentum and stuff. Like they'll spin on their own for a while, but eventually they're going to start to wobble,
Yep.
or yeah, it could be any number of things. Some sort of crazy weather, or no water.
Right. Right.
uh, so we already got into how you got into like Bitcoin solar mining.
Yep.
Is it solar Bitcoin mining or is it Bitcoin solar mining? Solar
Solar.
Bitcoin mining. I guess
Yeah.
you're not mining solar.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
you're just storing that energy. Can you talk a little bit more about the details? Like, so do you even do it for the Bitcoin that you get, or are you just doing it so like it's just not a waste, like it just doesn't
Yeah.
go to waste?
No, perfect. So let me give a 30-second on why Bitcoin.
Yes.
So like Bitcoin is like hard capped non-government money. Like it's money that its monetary policy is ran by software instead of humans. Like so in that sense, it's like instead of the world trying to measure itself and all of our value with like a rubber band, because the dollar is just like this rubber band that's like constantly moving. And so it's hard to measure things. It's hard to honestly even communicate with each other because we don't know what anything's worth. Like we honestly don't know what the correct price of anything is supposed to be because the ruler we're using is broken. And so Bitcoin is attempting to fix that, and it's been around for like 13 years, and that's what it's attempting to fix. And so, whatever frustration that people have with just like Bitcoin or cryptocurrency or like whatever, you just have to recognize that it's a young project, but its goal is to unite people underneath like a common measuring stick. So, another thing that makes it interesting, just attaching it to the world of physics and the world of energy, like the world runs on energy. Like Bitcoin, one way that you could describe it is it's backed by energy. Like the way every single, like the security of me knowing how much money is on like my address, you knowing how much money is on your address, them knowing how much money is on their address is secured by like computers. And those computers require electricity to like keep like securing everything. So like rather than Wells Fargo paying for their servers and their infrastructure and all their people, and then Bank of America paying for their ledger and all that stuff, and then both of them having to pay for their like infrastructure, and then having to constantly talk to each other and trust each other. There's one ledger, and rather than Bank of America and Wells Fargo being paid, like Bitcoin miners are being paid, like actual other people on the network are being paid. So that's the reason why it's a thing. The reason why it's attached to your own like solar is because, like I said, if like on average, my panels create like 20 kilowatts to 20 kilowatt hours a day. And if my house only uses 13 kilowatt hours a day, then that's 7 kilowatt hours a day. Look, I'm going to blow your mind. Like this is, people will laugh this, but it's like, dude, we pay 30 cents a kilowatt hour. Okay. Like that's how much it is per kilowatt hour if I buy it from the utility company. If they buy it back from me, dude, they pay 3.5 cents. So they'll pay me 3.5 cents for the kilowatt hour that I produce. But if I need one of theirs, I pay 30 cents for that one. Okay. So that's rigged. Like that's rigged. And they're the only person I can sell it to, right?
Right.
So
You can't
here's the
shop it
solution.
around.
Right. I can't put it on eBay and sell it or whatever. I can't send it to someone else with a battery. So Bitcoin mining, it's just a simple computer. Like it's a simple computer that's like a foot long, like inside my garage. There's no monitor. Like you just like plug it in and plug it into the like internet, and you hook it up to your account at a Bitcoin mining pool. And like rather than getting paid 3.5 cents of fiat from the utility company, I just turn it on for 7 kilowatt hours a day. So it's not even on all the time. It's like I have a box on my panel that says like how much solar is coming in and how much energy my house is using. And then I have like a smart PDU that from my computer, I can be like, run for 7 hours per day, 7 kilowatt hours per day. It'll turn on and then it'll turn off. So then all of that Bitcoin stacks up in my Bitcoin wallet. So yes, like it's for both. Like it's for both. The like Bitcoin that I earn is higher than what the utility company is paying me. And then my bill with the utility company is just break even. So they see I produce 20 and I use 20. And so with them, it's just break even, and all my surplus comes back to me in the form of Bitcoin. So that's and I have videos on my channel that talk about kind of the in-depth math of like how much you can make and stuff like that.
Nice. I'm glad you went into how you did that. I'm like, okay, so how does he make sure like he's only doing like the 7 or
Yep.
So
Because your house still needs it. And like I said, so during the summer, like we
yeah,
run the AC a lot. So like we're at 20 and 20 with air conditioning, and that's fine because then that's our house is using it. Like we're using it. But then in the winter, we'll run the house for 13, run the miner for 7, and then dude, it's a whole rabbit trail that you can go down, because then there's people that live in different climates than we do, and they'll use their S9 to like heat their greenhouse. So then they're using it's literally like composting, but for your electricity. Or there's just analogies all day that you can make, because it
right.
puts out heat. Like it puts out heat. And so you have people that are way more like, dude, you would have a blast with this. Like, because you already know how to pull wires and do all this stuff, because there's people that repurpose the heat in tons of different ways. So
Sure.
like
Yeah.
there's like funny hot tub builds and like all this stuff.
I was curious if I was thinking like, could you submerge it in water? That would be wild.
So some people, yes, rather than using a fan to cool the like computer boards, some people do submerge it in oil to like
The
pull the heat
mineral,
off of it.
isn't it like mineral oil because it's non-conductive?
I think
I
that's
looked at
deeper for me.
I used to be I used to build like my own desktop computers, and one of the cool ones was like the fish tank looking ones. So like you'd have all your components in mineral oil, and then you would have like a little bubbler at the bottom to create bubbles to make it look like a fish tank, and you could do like all these little graphics in the back and blah blah blah, and it was cool. It was pretty cool. Would it be possible to do a program? So you already have like the PDU you said.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what you called it, a PDU. To have like, okay, energy input from my solar is X, house uses Y, automatically like do like Z. Z would be like, that's the amount of energy that the Bitcoin miner can use. Like, and just do it all automatically, or do you have to manually do it all the time?
The box in my panel is called a Sense monitor. They have other ones, but the brand I use is called Sense, and the clamps go over the solar and clamps go over how much the house uses. And then the PDU is from a company out of San Diego called Synaxis. Currently, I have to like manually look at my average surplus per day and then type that into the like PDU.
Okay.
Yes, it's definitely not that far of a cry before the like APIs of both machines talk to each other to where you don't have to do that. It's like I've already talked to the PDU team about that. So yeah, it's like the world is moving that direction, dude. Like this is not a random thing that I'm just saying. Like people that buy solar are going to Bitcoin mining containers are going to be on the side of people's houses the same way air conditioners are on the side of people's houses. Like
Sure.
that,
Yeah.
that's going to happen. Because the other thing your audience should know, dude, if they like haven't heard, you should get other people that have gone down the like flare gas. Like if people have oil wells on their property and they're flaring that gas because it's not economical to cap the gas and sell it to someone, the same thing can happen. You can cap your flare gas on site, run it through a generator, turn it into electricity, and then back up a container full of miners and do that right on site. And so this, yeah, like this can work all the way at like my house where I just have like 2 machines, all the way up to like very sophisticated, like full oil, like oil wells are doing this with hundreds of machines. So it's like merging of like electricity priced in Bitcoin mathematically makes like a lot of sense.
Right. Just to come back to a little piece of what you said about your setup, you said about the clamps. For those that don't know, it's like basically like a coil or like a wrap of wire around the wire feeds that come into your panel. And that measures the amount of current running like into the panel of your house, and then from the panel obviously out to your like plugs and switches and stuff. So that's what he meant by a clamp.
Yep. I also have, funny on that too, I also have another like piece of software I use called the one I use is called Flume, but it's basically the same thing but for your water. So you go out to the front of your house and you wrap that on the front of where your water comes in the house, and it tells you how many gallons you're using per day. So that's another thing about just liking it's like if you're going to be self-sufficient, because I'm also really into like smart home stuff. Like if you're going to be self-sufficient, it starts with like what you measured gets managed. Like you have to know, like to put the 2,500 gallons of like water capture in context, I have to know, okay, my like including the outside garden, my house uses about 7,500 gallons a month. Like, and so that puts then the 2,500 number in context. And then that puts the like my water bill is like $100 a month. So that puts that in context to where, and so that's what I like about the electricity. So many people couldn't tell you, you know, how many kilowatt hours like their house uses per day, or like how many gallons their house uses per day. And so that helps
No, I think that makes sense. If nothing else, for like, I mean, you should be able to figure it out from your energy bill how many like your average kilowatt hours a day.
They'll try to hide the ball on your surplus stuff. They'll present it to you really weird.
That is true. So like my rate is like something like 6.5 cents a kilowatt hour, and then after a certain amount it's like 7.5.
Yep.
So I don't know.
Bro, look, so at 6.5 you should like already look into Bitcoin mining, because like
probably
6.5, it's not the best, but it's not the worst. Like it's very like with the few $100 machine like the S9, like I was telling you, that'll have a hard time breaking even at 6.5 cents. But any of the other next up generation ones, it'll be right there at break even with 6.5 cents.
Sure. Maybe. Yeah, I got a lot of other things I gotta actually buy first before getting into that harder. I'm not discounting it though.
No, dude, 100%.
So how does Bitcoin contribute to localism?
So Bitcoin is like hyper allegiant to the like local individual and hyper allegiant to the like global world at the same time. It's like the best of both worlds, because it contributes to localism because you can fully own your money now. You don't fully own the US dollars in your bank account. You don't fully own the pieces of paper, US dollars in your pocket, like because it's still being jacked with by humans running monetary policy. Like Bitcoin is predefined software that has already been set out for the next 100 years, and that's there. And so it's a measuring stick that we can all know. And then at the same time that yours and mine, like local, like American, like economies, small town or whatever, can run on Bitcoin. While you're doing that, you're lifting the bar for countries like El Salvador, countries like Central Africa Republic that have already adopted Bitcoin as legal tender, like as their legal currency. And so the world is going to become dollarized, and then it's going to become Bitcoinized. And by people beginning to move their localism economy over to Bitcoin, they're like speeding up that transition in a way that's like super positive for the world.
One thing that is in the news every once in a while is CBDCs.
Mm-hmm.
And a guy that I've had on the podcast before, he on his his TikTok channel, he goes, one thing I could see them doing with the CBDCs is for them to take off early, is that you put in, let's say, like one like dollar, and you get 10 or 100 like digital dollars or something like that. And so it pays for someone to get in early. Like, wow, I can get all this like pretty early. And then like that is, so how do you see Bitcoin fighting the CBDCs? Like, it's just like a privatized version of this awful thing that's coming.
Yeah. So CBDC, central bank digital currency, like is fiat. Like, it's still just fiat money that they're choosing the supply of. And it takes it a step further than that in saying, they can turn it on and off. Like, the one benefit of like the paper money in your pocket is that there's no like kill switch to it, like the way there is with the bank account, and the way that there will even be more so with central bank digital currency. The way like, and I agree with him, like that's probably a pretty good assessment of like onboarding of why. And yeah, like they're probably gonna like pitch this like really good interest rate numbers, and so it'll feel like your like numbers going up when you're like keeping it with them, and like it's feel good or whatever. The way that I think that this plays out in localism, local economies, and to where people will inherently understand the difference between Bitcoin and CBDC is, that scene in Star Wars where the pod racer is like broken down and they're having to go buy the new parts, and he's like negotiating with the guy, and he's like, hey, I have this many Republic credits, and the guy's like, yeah, we don't take Republic credits out here. Like, we need money out here. Like, we don't take Republic credits. That's Bitcoin. Like, Bitcoin is small business people being like, yeah, we don't, like, bro, like if you're paying with CBDC, like the price is double, man. Like, we can't do that here. Like, and so, gas stations, gas station pricing, where it's like there's a cash price and a credit price.
Actually, I've only, when I was just in California, that's the only time I've ever seen that. That is not like that anywhere else I've seen.
No, and it was confusing. I think that's going to happen. Like, that's where there's a, like, and I hate saying, this is how I'm trying to tweak the language, like, so it's friendly to business owners. It's not a discount for paying with Bitcoin. Like, Bitcoin is the real price. Like, and for people, like, mentally, it's going to take a long time for us to get away from like saying dollars, like how many dollars of this, how many dollars of this, or whatever. So that's not even what I'm saying. I'm not saying like price your stuff in Bitcoin. I'm saying accept remittance of like the payment in Bitcoin. Like, so if you're a brewery and like the beers are $6, then like $6 is the price. And if you're paying with Bitcoin, the price is $6. If you're paying with a credit card or with CBDC or with like something else, like it's $7. Like, because that's like, because we have to deal with that. We have to deal with the middlemen of this other stuff. We have to deal with the counterparty risk of this other stuff. But if you passing uncensorable Bitcoin like to me, then you get the real price. And so that's what I think is going to, as like the usability of Bitcoin improves, and as we get it into more and more like minds of the people across like local economies, that's my like optimistic like take on the way that things will play out.
It's man, it's gonna be wild. It's gonna like I can absolutely see the scenario that you just illustrated. I can see that happening, but to actually live it is going to be something entirely different. You know, like it's going to feel so weird.
Definitely.
Like, how did we get here? Like,
Right.
what are
Right.
we doing? Like, we used
Right.
to all just agree that this stupid piece of paper like had value and
Right.
like because they said it did.
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
it's going to be nuts.
and here's another one way that I try to cut through like the nuts and just try to think about it from like we grew up with an allegiance to a certain kind of money. And so, and it's honestly it's a super trippy thing, and it's super confusing thing to be like there's a new money, like there's a new reserve currency. That's super confusing, and it's still like it's just wild to think about. But think about like a 13-year-old like turning 13 like 10 years from now, just from scratch, like rather than their first job, rather than writing down a social security number on a piece of paper and then writing down a checking account and a routing account number and having this like government numbers like orient to this software sending this USD to this account. Think about there's going to be like like a cryptographic ID, like where I scan like this is me, or I like show up on video call or whatever. Like if it's a software job, it's a physical job. It doesn't matter. It's not just about software and computers versus like physical labor. It's about still straight up. Like if I clock in with a different way of explaining this is me who's up for work, paired with uncensorable Bitcoin, open source software Bitcoin, that's like that person is going to have a different life than we are. The society that runs like that is going to be different than ours is. Like that's where, you know, decentralization is just like kind of a buzzword, but that is different. Like that's a very like then private transaction between that like that person who's doing work and the person who's paying for the work.
Yeah, it's gonna be. You're kind of blowing my mind a little bit right now. Like you get. I can tell you've obviously thought about this a lot, and so to like hear like the concept for the first time, it's like man, I'm gonna have to like re-listen to this probably 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
maybe I'll get it.
And that's what I mean about like I don't want to like I don't just want to be spouting random like ANCAP thoughts just for the sake of like, look, like I read all the books and like I said the thing or whatever. No, I'm like, I'm literally feel like this technology that I've like touched and have like used with the current apps I have on my phone right now. That's what it gives power to. And dude, I don't think it's that far away. If they're like, well, the government will never allow it. The government will, bro, like I'm talking to you over this computer right now without the permission like of anybody. And we just watched like everything that just happened over the last 2 years. Like that the apparatus of the people in power is like sometimes we give it way too much credit. Like we give it way too much
That
credit.
is
That
true.
that apparatus is completely disorganized, and it's not like it's just not that powerful. Like it sounds cheesy, but just like humans acting on their own incentives combined with how open source like tech and just like stuff is like getting better and better all the time is that's what keeps me optimistic and in this like phase of like regular people are going to have regular tools to separate themselves.
You bring up a good point um, about the apparatus. Like we we think that they're like have this all of this like power and authority when they're super incompetent at, and maybe they like don't necessarily have said specific power and authority, but because we think that they do, we're almost like inherently like giving them permission, like, oh, okay, let's just go ahead and make that like allowable, that we do have this power and authority that you already think and say that we do. So thanks.
100%. 100%. We give it up first. 100%.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just almost have to like switch. Like,
yeah,
I'm wearing a shift your mindset shirt. It's like you gotta shift your mindset. Like you don't like you gotta think like they don't have this power and authority. Like I don't recognize that one. Then like you're a perfect example. Like I'm literally taking back all these facets, which you used to control me that you no longer do.
Yeah.
Dude, perfect. Man. Let's wrap up here. What would you tell people that want to get started in, like, let's talk about homesteading first. What would you tell people that want to get started?
Yeah, I would say mulch your yard. Dude, just like if you have a grass patch, just like wood chip it. Literally wood chip it and like start there and start just like all your food scraps, just start going and dumping them in the yard, like in the pile. That's what I would say to start. And if you're like, if you're gardening, like if you lean towards gardening at all, I would start with that. If you lean towards the like, just like tech or more nerdy like infrastructure stuff, then I would say like I like the software stuff that's like how much electricity does your house use and how much water does your house use, because then you can like a whole nother thing that I haven't even gone down because my house couldn't do it, but like gray water capture. Don't even do rainwater capture. Do gray water capture and like find a way to get your like laundry machine rerouting that water to part of your yard and then mulch that part of your yard and just start building the soil. Because then it's going to make whatever planting you do easier. Because I'm not sure if I can grow anything yet, but I do know that I've like made the like dirt better.
That's a good point. We built this house and it was, I didn't really think or learn about the gray water aspect until it was like already too late. Like we were way too far into the construction process. Like, oh, damn it.
Yeah.
Maybe in the next one.
Yeah. Same thing happened to us on the solar. Like, and you realize how much, homes aren't like, or regular designs aren't built for these like kind of next thought out, like utility stuff.
Yeah. So what would you tell people that want to get started in Bitcoin?
Yeah. To get started in Bitcoin, if you already have like Cash App on your phone, like Cash App already has Bitcoin in it. So I would tell people like get $1 of Bitcoin and like be comfortable with holding a second currency on your phone, because that's where it starts. And then I would say like my DMs are open. Tons of people DMs are open. I would say like there's a really good book called The Bitcoin Standard. I think that one's like still definitely worth reading because it talks about just how Bitcoin could replace central banking.
That seems like the Bible of like Bitcoiners, 100%. Like Bitcoin maxis. That one's always the one that's referenced is the Bitcoin Standard. I'll have to like get the audiobook or something like that and listen to it.
Yep. 100%.
Is there any so Cash App? Are you able to? I know this might be like level 2 stuff. Are you able to transfer your Bitcoin off a Cash App to like Exodus wallet or something?
Yep. Yeah, you can. Yep. And so the next step would be exactly that. Buy $10 and then practice withdrawing it. And so like if you already run with Exodus wallet, use that one. There's another one I like using called Moon Wallet, MUUN. There's a wallet I like called Casa Wallet, CASA. But yeah, exactly, because that's your first transaction. Mm-hmm.
Right, gotcha. Because to get slightly technical, Cash App is a custodial wallet, I'm assuming. Yep. Okay, cool. I have it on my phone and stuff, but okay, cool.
I would call it an exchange. Like it's a place where you can swap dollars into Bitcoin. And
Okay.
so, yeah, if you want like wallet where you have full control of the Bitcoin, then yeah, withdraw it to a wallet.
Okay. Cool. And I guess if like, yeah, Brian said he's got his DMs open. You can ask him
Yeah.
questions. I can also help as much as I can. I'm like
Yep.
like a lay person. I ended up moving some money around, and now I've got like a decent holding of Bitcoin. I've got two treasure wallets,
Yeah. Perfect.
two multi sigs and stuff set up. So I'm still like dabbling in it,
Yep.
slowly, but hey, man, I'm glad we could finally connect and
Yeah.
make this happen. This is a pretty awesome interview. I haven't done one so Bitcoin like focused, but
Yep.
also obviously like this is like a homesteading podcast.
Yep.
And so that the two went together like really well. This is really fun. I like this.
Yeah, dude. No, thanks for what you're doing. Thanks for connecting people doing this.
Yeah. Yeah. You're welcome. And, we'll definitely keep in touch. I might ask you some more questions, going forward. So,
Yeah. Heck yeah, man.
all right. So have a good night, Brian. Thank you.
Cool. All right, everyone. Later.